What's a news story that got buried that you think more people need to hear? That time a few years ago when Equifax doxed a third of the US and only one person saw any jail time, and just 4 months at that. This should be a monthly thread. That insect populations are crashing around the globe. There was a scandal in Germany in the 70s and 80s where the pharma industry used contaminated blood products to make a medicine for people who got hemophilia so they don't spend too much money on making the medicine. Hemophilia means that you have no blood clotting, and it is not that common. Well, the contaminated medicine gave round about 4.500 hemophilic persons HIV and or hepatitis C. The civil war in Myanmar got absolutely buried by the Ukraine-Russia war. This is actually pretty recent, yet no one talks about it. Larry Page, the co-founder of Google, has gone missing. Like nobody knows where he is. US Virgin Islands are trying to find him to subpoena him, due to his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. I scrolled so far on this thread, and there isn't a single mention of him. Many of the Uvalde students bled to death and could have been saved. Pike Company, AL sheriff decided he didn't want to release an inmate when the judge ordered he should be released. Sheriff said no, and the inmate is still in jail. An oil well in the Gulf of Mexico, off the coast of Louisiana, that's just been leaking ridiculous amounts of oil for over a decade now, and last I knew, still nobody's doing shit about it. The Taylor platform or something like that. It was owned by a retired couple who just passed the buck and moved on or died, can't remember. It's estimated that it spilled more oil over time than the Deepwater Horizon disaster. The Mormon Church became one of the richest organizations in the world by creating illegal Shell stock holdings. 10,000 pounds of highly explosive ammonium nitrate disappeared from a rail car last week. That's what they used in Oklahoma City. The guy in Nova Scotia, Canada, that dressed up as a policeman, customized his vehicle to look like a police car and was pulling people over and murdering them. There should be protocols in place to prevent this from happening again. Good news: the Move Forward Party won in Thailand against the ruling party, which has ties to the military junta that ruled the country after the 2014 coup. Their policies include essentially separating the military and the government forever, legalizing same-sex marriage, and reducing the power of the royalty. Rich foreigners reportedly paid the Bosnian Serb army to be allowed to shoot at civilians in besieged Sarajevo during the Bosnian War. These allegations were made public by Slovenian filmmaker Miron Zupani in a 2022 documentary called Sarajevo Safari. The names of the rich foreigners, who reportedly came from the US, Canada, Russia and Italy, remain unknown. Poison gas attacks on Iranian schoolgirls has been going on since around November. It wasn't exactly buried, but it blows my mind how little attention was given to the railroad strike being crushed back in December. They forced workers in shitty conditions to give in to demands by straight up making it illegal to strike, and told us it was necessary to protect the economy. It was a brutal, horrific act of top-down class violence, but it was largely seen as no big deal, business as usual. The rights and lives of average Joes are apparently worth trampling to protect the profit margins of the insanely rich. The Pandora Papers that were released about a year ago, which builds upon the Panama Papers. The day after they were released, Facebook was out for the day, which was also all everyone talked about. Tinfoil time. It was down intentionally to prevent the Pandora Papers from trending and distract everyone. Guam, Rota, and Saipan just got slammed directly by a Category 4 hurricane super typhoon. We have friends in Rota and Saipan. Haven't been able to reach them. This was a monster storm, slow-moving, hitting tiny islands. I can't imagine how bad it's going to be. Just waiting on the phone to ring or a text to come through, but I imagine communication is going to be down a while. Who is on Jeffrey Epstein's list of visitors? John Bolton admitted to Jake Tapper's face on CNN last year that he partook in a few coups. A company called BlackRock is slowly buying up houses all over the country so they can rent them out to PPL rather than PPL being able to buy their own house. It's going to help destroy the middle class. They are eventually trying to turn us all into permanent renters. And the thing is, they come in and buy a house for more than the asking price, so sellers are more likely to sell to them. In some states they have bought entire neighborhoods. The middle class is getting gutted in this country. It's a dystopian nightmare. That a 73-year-old man plowed a car full of gasoline into a building in my tiny town that is the site of a proposed abortion clinic. The FBI are involved, and I have seen barely anything in the local news and nothing in national. 99 of deceased football players have CTE. The cop who shot the dude on the electric wheelchair, 9 times including a headshot kill shot, walks scot-free. No indictments. Wasn't there billions of dollars missing from the Pentagon? Then 9/11 happened. When Robinhood removed the buy button from a specific set of stocks. Ohio train wreck, what's it like today? Ohio train wreck, rivers cleanup progress. Every missing and murdered Indigenous girl or woman. They don't even make the news a lot of the time. A recent example of the disaster this is Carson Mackenzie's suspicious death in Cowichan Bay, BC, Canada. If the general public showed more loud interest in these cases, they might actually make the news and get the attention they deserve. It always gets buried BC of $. But Dan Schneider is a pedophile, and networks like Disney and Nick enable him and predators like him. Maybe not buried, but that we were told Epstein killed himself while on 24/7 surveillance. 2 separate set of guards fell asleep on duty and his surveillance camera turned off in the hour time spans he killed himself. How has there been no follow-up on that? Lawyers tell special counsel Jack Smith that the White House call logs for January 6 are missing. There was an investigation starting about the practices of abusive naked shorts selling stocks, essentially free money for large market makers and institutions, because they were never forced to pay to close out these positions, as they could keep rolling them over. They did not own what they were selling because what they sold exceeded what was available to be sold. And then there was a fire in the warehouse where these records are kept. Impeccable timing. China literally holding concentration camps to torture Muslims and a minority of Christians. In Ohio. Householder taking bribes from First Energy. They tried to play it off like, that's what lobbyists do. Bullshit. They were straight up bribes. They got convicted, but it just wasn't talked about as much as I thought the biggest conviction of bribery and money laundering in Ohio would have brought. IDK if First Energy is getting charged with anything. It just seems to have fizzled out. And First Energy will be doubling the cost come June this year. Wonder why? David Kelly exposing the WMD lies and ending up dead in a forest. How are we not constantly talking about new things from the Pandora Papers? That shit was supposed to be groundbreaking and now I never hear of it. The US hacking tools have been released on the internet showing that they can mimic other countries' techniques. They can hack a Canadian election and make it look like the Russians did it. Look up Vault 7 foot. The reversal of the depletion of the ozone layer. Even today, some people just think that it was never really an issue or that it was hippie propaganda, but it was actually the best proof that we have that indicates that we absolutely do affect our environment. It was also a sign that nations can work together to make global environmental change possible. Luckily for us, the solution was inexpensive. Gojo's inflated subscriber numbers out of India. In Oakland, the DA is basically cutting a judge out of all criminal cases because he denied a 3x murderer 1 murder was hit job and a second was a witness a sweetheart deal of 1 count of